if we know that stress, lack of sleep, diet, nutrition, another thing we didn't mention is hydration.
Yeah, it's huge.
If we know these things are what are causing the chronic inflammation, so if we turn that around and say, okay, so what do I need to do to help my body have a healthy inflammatory response? Well, that it kind of answers the question for us, but like, what are some things there that we can use that information to do to help reduce stress, sleep better, make better food choices?
Yeah. Isn't it the question that we all are faced with today? How to manage our time better so that we can find more time for rest and more time for sleep. Managing our time better so that we can have time to maybe prepare a meal instead of go through a drive-through, right? Because your packaged, processed, high sugar, high salt foods, are a little more difficult for the body to break down than your foods that are in a more natural state. So I don't think there's a single answer, but we can just talk about, some of the things that you and I personally do, but it's a tough one. You know what I mean? This isn't a podcast that's like, oh, we've got the answers. It's a podcast to go, hey, let's create some awareness around this because it's not an easy fix. It's not easy to slow down when you're working, full time, maybe even 2 jobs so that you can put food on the table. It's not easy, to turn everything off and have a good bedtime routine, especially when you've got kids. And it's not easy to make a healthy meal. I mean, let's face it, it is so much easier to grab something on the go that's processed and than it is for me to stop and go to the grocery store and, find some, whole foods, clean vegetables, clean meats and come home and prepare a meal. So it's not an easy fix. It's not an easy fix at all. But it's something that's super important. And I think we should, whether we ever come up with an answer for it, I think we should continue to talk about it and maybe just kind of weigh in on some of the things, that we do.
Yeah.
That make a difference.
Let's break it out by category.
Okay.
Let's start with stress. Obviously, stress is something that's going to be like, our goal isn't to remove stress, right? Just like with sugar, I hear a lot of people say, I'm on a sugar-free diet. And I'm like, I don't know how long that's going to last.
Yeah. Anything restrictive like that is just not sustainable, right?
Yeah. So the idea isn't that like our goal isn't to remove stress from our life or to not feel stressed, but our goal is to have a healthy response to stress. And so what do we do when we feel that kind of a thing? For me, for example, I often feel stressed when I'm working, right? Not often, but like that tends to be something that causes stress, or if I'm thinking about finances or things like that. And I can feel my chest tighten up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear my brain start going a little faster, like the thoughts are going a little bit more erratic. And the best thing I can do in that moment is just notice it. And my favorite thing to do is sit back, focus on my posture, and just blow that stuff out.
Yes.
One good breath. It's amazing what one good breath can do for your nervous response.
It truly is, you guys. You don't see us before we start this podcast, but every single time we get on this podcast, we have this little talk before we hit the record button. And we always do this deep breath. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 2 or 3, but all of us collectively will be like, wow, that really did bring my stress level down. Breathing is such a powerful tool. It's so powerful. And I know we've had a podcast about breath work, and we can talk about all the unique different types of breath work. But you know what? We don't have to make it that hard. Just 2 or 3 deep, full breaths can make a huge difference to bring down that those cortisol levels, bring up those endorphin levels a little bit. But that's a fantastic thing. Just pay attention to when you're holding your breath or when your breath starts to get irregular, and just sit back and be like, okay, this is free. This is absolutely free. It's not going to cost me anything. I know this is my big thing that a lot of people say. They're like, I can't do it because I'm at work. And I'm like, you know what? I am sure every single person that's sitting in the room with you right now at work could probably use a deep breath too. So it's okay to say out loud, hey guys, let's collectively do one big sigh. Everybody in and everybody out. Oh, that felt so damn good. Let's do it again. Everybody in everybody out,
And hey,
and
if one of your colleagues frustrates you too, you're going to find yourself doing that automatically without even
right.
thinking about it too.
Right, exactly, exactly. So taking the time to breathe is so huge, and just stopping to do that's a fantastic thing. In the moment, one of my other favorite things to do is to shake like a duck. If you've ever seen ducks on a water, they kind of glide really smooth and they're just out there, but they'll cross paths with somebody they're not wanting to cross paths with. And there'll be this little quack, quack, meh, meh, that they do. And then as they're going away, they do this kind of little shake and shudder to shake it off as they go on. I tell everybody a little bit of shaking can make a big difference. And I know that sounds silly, but I call it the jiggle. My kids make so much fun of me. You have no idea. But to just jiggle your body, to just shake off, to shake out your hands and shake off your body, you could do it 10, 15 seconds. You will be shocked at how different your body feels if you shake like a duck.
For
Physically
sure.
shake like a duck, But those are some of the things that we can do in the moment, right? We can breathe. We can do a little jiggle. Sometimes we can just get up and walk away from what we're doing. Excuse yourself, say that you have to go to the restroom, and change what's going on. Those are huge things in the moment. But I want to talk a little bit about pre-paving. And what I mean by pre-paving is, Tyler, you nailed it on the head when you said this isn't about avoiding stress. We're not going to get around it, right? This is where we live. This is the society that we live in. But doing some pre-paving where we set ourselves up so that when we are faced with a stressful situation, our stress response is not already wound up. We're not already wired so that the smallest thing sets us off, right? And that's where you have to come up with some sort of daily practice to pre-pave for your day, and maybe that's a breathing routine. Maybe it's exercise. Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's putting your pet on your lap and petting your dog, in the morning, or, maybe it's some sort of walk after dinner at night. But it really does make a huge difference when we balance ourselves with things that bring us joy, spending time with our family, spending time laughing. Oh my gosh, spending time laughing. If we could all just spend time cracking ourselves up, for 30, 45 seconds a day, the endorphins that are released, the connection that occurs, the oxytocin that occurs when you laugh with somebody. Oxytocin is that bonding hormone. All those types of things help modulate the stress response, which helps lower inflammation. It is scientifically proven that things like oxytocin, the bonding hormone, endorphins, from whether it's exercise or other things that we do, those connections actually lower our stress, the cortisol levels in our body that actually affect inflammation in our body. And so giving ourselves permission to do things for ourselves that are good, that really, really feel good,
Yeah.
Music is huge. I mean, maybe you listen to music, maybe you read a book, but finding something that brings you joy and helps center you is huge for helping with that.
Yeah,
What do you think,
definitely. I like
Tyler?
that pre-paving. I like that. Yeah, I mean, it's just like anticipating that there's going to be stressful moments, and the best thing that we can do, in the most ideal world, we would have a routine on a regular basis, probably a daily basis,
Right.
of just doing these types of things that help to strengthen our nervous system. And by strengthening our nervous system, I just essentially mean like give it. I think of a nervous system, like when I think of the nervous system, I just think of like expanding ourselves, right? And
Mm-hmm.
our ability to feel certain things and sit with that feeling and be
Mm-hmm.
okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can anticipate that there's probably going to be moments that are challenging, like when we wake up in the morning, it's okay to think like, okay, like something's going to stress me today and that's okay. And I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here's a regular routine that I do on a regular basis, whether it's meditation or, hey, people who when they take their shower and they turn it all the way cold for like 30 to 60
Oh, that's a good
seconds
one.
on a regular basis. I'm telling you, those people can handle stress better than most others, because you realize in that moment, and really cold therapy is such a great, like, I feel it feels so synonymous with stress response, because
It is.
when you get in that cold water, it is full on stress response. Like every part of your body just screams. But when you can sit in that, and the secret with cold therapy is the more you can just focus on your breathing and being still and not like squirming or shaking or hyperventilating, the more that you can just focus on your breath, keep it calm, keep yourself still, and sit with that feeling, the more tolerable it becomes. Now, cold therapy, do it like, be careful if you do cold therapy. Like, don't just go do it yourself if you've never done it before. Not
Right.
saying to do that, but it's very similar because when we feel that stress, a lot of times when we feel that stress and then we respond by hyperventilating or letting the mind get the best of us, right?
Right.
That's, if we can just expand ourselves in those moments and feel it and breathe through it and just
Mm-hmm.
let it come and let it go, because this too shall pass. And I
Yeah.
think the
Yeah.
mindset is really important too, is just understanding that, hey, I felt this bad feeling before and it went away. It's going to go away again.
Mm-hmm.
And then also knowing too, when things are really, really good, just knowing like, yeah, like I really enjoy this moment because everything's really good. I know it's not always going to be at the complete high. At some point, I'm going to feel it's going to come back down again. But what I need to do is remind myself in those moments that, hey, this too shall pass. Enjoy the good while it's happening. Just be okay when it's bad, when it feels bad, because it's going to come back to good again
Yeah.
sooner
Except,
than later. A lot of times.
well, accepting what is, acceptance of that moment is huge, knowing that we're here and being okay with it. Part of that pre-paving that you talked about, one of my favorite things is to do a gratitude practice. And I know it is different for everybody. I encourage people that go into an office that have a computer that they flip on every morning. I say, flip on your computer and find a spot. I don't know if you've got a certain notes section or somewhere on a Word document, but spend just a 2 or 3 minutes every morning being grateful for something. You know, that's a great way to pre-pave. It's just, I am so grateful that I had a hot shower this morning. I'm so grateful that I got clothes on. Did you know I actually have shoes that don't have holes in the bottom of them? There's just so many things to be grateful for. And I'm grateful that I'm sitting at this job. And yes, it annoys me. And yes, it has a lot of burdens, but it's bringing me a paycheck. And that's bringing food to my family. And that's putting nourishment in my body. And just finding just 2 or 3 minutes a day with gratitude is, talk about some pre-paving power. Gratitude is huge. I like the idea of journaling. Some people say it out loud, but that's a great way of pre-paving. Yes, the exercise routines are great and the meditation is great and going to the gym is great and the breathing is great. I agree with all of that. But sometimes just a small little 2 or 3 minutes where we're grateful, that can change your biochemistry as well. And that's a big one. So that's another thing that we can do to help modulate that stress response, which of course will help modulate the inflammation response in the body as well. Because that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about what we can do, to feel better. That's basically
For
what it
sure.
is,
And so that's stress. Stress is one of the things that causes chronic inflammation in the body. That's stress. The other thing we talked about is diet, nutrition. And obviously, I mean, one of the first steps that I tell a lot of people to do